Welcome to the House of Lords. If any of you haven't been here before, this is a very special place, probably the most beautiful chamber in the world, and that's an unprejudiced opinion. For someone who's been in the House of Lords now, 27 years, that's a long time. I'm delighted to be here, and I know that many of you have travelled from around the world to be here, from Australia, from the US, from Canada, Dubai, people from Lebanon, Syria, Greece, India, all over the world. And I know that Shwaj Paul is very connected with this event. So Shwaj, it's good to see you, and we've known each other for a long, long time. You here tonight are here because you've achieved. You've done something in life. You've made a difference in life. You have created businesses. You're entrepreneurs. And you've striven for success. But you've achieved success. And that is so meaningful in life. And I'm just going to give you an example of myself, because I'm sure this may be not that different to many of you here this evening. So I started off, I lived in one room. We didn't have a bathroom. We went to the public bath, and I tried to miss it as often as I could because it was horrible. And life progressed. I was fortunate to have a good education. And I was going to go to LSE, one of our top universities, but a long time ago I was a very good athlete, and I ran for London in the All England. I was a sprinter. And I felt I was being very bad at school in the sixth form. I was in a tracksuit the whole time. And it was very difficult for my parents. And so I went home as a 16-year-old, and I said to my mum, I'm tossing a coin. Heads it's accounting, tails it's law. She couldn't believe it. She thought I was going on to university. But in those days, you could go into accountancy or law without having gone to university. And can you serve the food when I've spoken, please? Hello? Can you serve the food when I've spoken, please? Thank you. And the coin came down on accountancy. So there I was, didn't know a thing about it, but at 21, I was a qualified chartered accountant. And then they offered me to become a partner where I was articled. And I said, no, I'm going to go on my own. So I set up my own practice. You know how many clients I had? Total sum of 0. But I had an office, and I was able to do work for other firms. And I remember the very first client, he was actually an Indian gentleman called Ray Chetta. And he said, well, how much are your fees? And I said, I don't care. I'll do it for nothing. I just want to shout to the world, I've got a client, my number one client. And the practice developed. And then for some reason, it went into the entertainment industry. And the Beatles producer became a client. Tony Bennett became a client. And suddenly I started to specialize in international license and copyright. And I started to build up a very successful practice. One of my clients was the boss of CBS. And we went on holiday together, and he said, Michael, I'm really angry with my people, my music department. They turned down one of my producers. And he said, I want you to start a business and back this guy. And I said, what, with peanuts? I don't have capital. And he said, don't worry, we'll help you. And so CBS helped me, and I started a business for fun, really. And I was running my practice, but I started this business in one little basement, was running from my professional practice to the business, and the first record release went to number 2 in the chart. The second record release went to number 1 in the chart. Suddenly I had a business. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I had a business. And I learned very, very quickly, I promise you. And we built a business all around the world. I got out of my professional life and went into the entertainment industry. And we built a business, actually, that was bigger than Virgin in those days. But in my early 40s, my father had died many years before, and I'm an only child. My mum had an amputation. It was very difficult. And I sat in the hospital with her, and she went into coma. So I couldn't really talk to her or her to me, but I thought she was giving me a message. Michael, change your life. And after a period of mourning, I sat with my lawyer, who was on my board anyway, and I said, I'm getting out, I'm selling out. He said, you're nuts. And he gave me a very good reason why I shouldn't sell, but I ignored it. And I sold to Warner Brothers, and I started another business. And then I met a young man called Tony Blair. We became friends, tennis partners, and they spent virtually every weekend in my home. And what happened was we became very close. Tragically, John Smith, who was then the leader of the Labour Party, died of a heart attack. And Tony wasn't even considered to be the leader, let alone the Prime Minister. And I said to Tony, go for it. And he said, do you think so, Michael? I said, yes. I said, I'll back you all the way. Tony went for the leadership of the Labour Party and won. And then 3 years later, he became Prime Minister. So another coincidence, I was at the side of the leader of the party and then the Prime Minister. He then asked me to be his envoy. He asked me to come in here 27 years ago into the Lords, then asked me to be his envoy and represent him around the world, which I did. So I'm giving you this story because the message is, each of you in this room, you're here because you've achieved. You're here and you've come from all over the world because you've been successful. You're here because you're entrepreneurs. You're here because you care. You're here because you make a difference. You're here because you're special. And that's what achievers and entrepreneurs are. I've told you this story. Some of it may relate to you. Some of it may not relate to you. But I look around and many of you are very young. Certainly a lot younger than me. You have many, many years ahead to achieve and to be successful. And you never know what's around the corner in life. Because if you'd have said to me, from my humble origins, I would be in the House of the Lords for the last 27 years, be the personal envoy of the British Prime Minister, go around the world and visit presidents, monarchs, prime ministers on his behalf, I'd have said, what are you smoking tonight, or have you drunk too? But that happened because I was able to take those opportunities, grab them, and that's what I did. So my message to each and every one of you is, carry on what you're doing, carry on achieving, carry on being successful, and may God bless you. Thank you very much.